Geoffrey, welcome.
Thank you. Been long overdue.
The Zampost challenge. Tell me about that. How did that all start?
That was one of my highlights last year. It was a very deliberate move. I'll tell you this. I envy very, very much such that I've channeled a little bit of some of my energies just looking at how they do certain things, because one day I would like Priority to be like them. Most of the creatives want to make things look good without having a strong story to tell. But what we realize is in as much as we may not have the proper visuals, good posters, the image manipulations and whatnot, if we have a solid story to tell, this is something that's actually going to help us win this challenge. One concept that you have to bear in mind is you can be creative, but if you break the rules, you miss the mark. Simple things like a model called the PEST model in marketing. Before you do anything, no matter how creative it is, whatever intention you have, in communication especially, when you're delivering a service, you have to put in mind certain things. How's the political structure in the market? How's the economic structure? What's the social and cultural setup of that environment? And I think they missed it there, because I think there was one artwork where they threw in a mermaid.
What do you think the creative industry is lacking in Zambia?
Collaboration, togetherness, discipline, seriousness. We've got camps. We've got that camp that side, we've got this camp this side. For the industry to grow, there's a lot of togetherness that has to be exhibited. You are talented, but what happens when that talent is taken away? Are you going to be able to survive a month without you going into depression? Have a way around your creative energies and create a standard, constant revenue stream from it. If you can't diversify, but just don't rely on that. And that's the seriousness that I talk about. If you treat your talent as a talent, it will bring revenue just as a talent. If you treat your talent as a business, it's going to bring you business money.
Quick one, before we go any further, please remember to like and to subscribe and to share. And I promise to bring you the best and most valuable content. Geoffrey.
Hi, Marka.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's been long overdue.
Yeah.
I remember when I watched the first episode, I was like, I have to feature. I have to come.
Yeah.
Because this is something that I wanted to do for myself. But because of certain things, time, resources, we couldn't do it. So we jump on what's already existing.
Yeah, let's do it then.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So the first time, I like to tell where I first knew somebody from, or where I first saw their work from.
Okay.
So I think the first time I heard of your work, I think that was last year when there was that design challenge. I think that's the first time I came across your work. I was just saying, what's going on here, guys?
The fire.
The fire. Yeah, I just log into Facebook. There's people and posts and whatnot. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, but I was just like, okay. Yeah, let's see where this goes. But I also saw that this is really important, because I think it got a lot of people's attention. And even people who are not like in the design space were talking about it as well.
That was very interesting, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation. But yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation. We'll talk about that, of course, the challenge and the stuff you guys did that went viral. And also talk about, your life experiences being a designer and some tips to other creatives. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much once again.
Yeah. So how was it like growing up? What were you interested in?
Being the only child has its perks and downs as well. So mostly my growth process has been a little bit rebellious. More on the creative side, I always liked to explore a lot of things. Having grown up on the copper belt, I'm literally a Kopala person.
Oh, really?
Straight up Kopala person. Straight up.
I didn't know that.
Straight up.
Yeah.
I'm a straight up Kopala person. So, I mean, I was born in Ndola, grew up in Kitwe, trained in Kitwe. So in training, I mean the Copper Belt University, because that's where I did most of my tertiary education. So my upbringing as a solo child demanded for quite a lot. I was very, very, what's that word? I had a very strong sense of entitlement. And because of that, I was very, very rebellious. I spent most of my childhood in the UK. But unfortunately, after I lost my dad, we had to come back here, and the environment was totally different. But I always knew there was something that I was interested in. I'll be in a group of friends doing all sorts of stuff, but I'll be the one who will be drawing stuff on the walls, you know.
Graffiti.
Graffiti. If
Illegally.
Yeah, of course, illegally. So it will be very illegal. And if there's no wall for me to actually get my hands on, I'll start drawing on the ground. So that sort of followed me even as I grew up. When I got into school, still on the copper belt, I was trying to find my mark actually in the creative space. At that time, we didn't even call it creative. It was more of art.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy, he knows how to draw. You know, he can draw you.
Yeah.
So I was that type of a kid. So even as I was growing up from primary school into secondary, I remember when I switched schools from the copper belt to Lusaka, I made sure that the class that I was in had some art attached to it. But unfortunately, there wasn't anything like that at the school. I think that was Rhodes Park School. The best that would come close was these clubs. You know, these schools have clubs. Yeah. So there was music club, there was art club, and I was like, okay, that's where I'm going to be. So I was able to polish up my drawing skills from there. I was actually pretty good. I would literally draw, because you know how art class was. They'll put something for you in front, and you have to draw it. But it doesn't end there. You have to do the shading, the shadows and whatnot. So I was actually very, very good. And this followed me all the way up to secondary. When I went to Monali, I made sure I went into a class that had art. Straight up. When I moved to higher secondary, that was Liwala High School, I made sure there was art as well. You know, these people going for science. To for my people want to go where their science says, no, I am going this way. So I made sure everywhere I would go, there was some level of art. And it actually did pay off, because I remember, I know that was a scam. But at Monali, I was one of the 5 pupils that were picked to go to a country called Croatia. At that time, I didn't even know about it. It's like, you know, assembly setup. And they make those announcements. We are proud to announce our junior artists. And my name was called. People shouted. You know, I think in the crowd there was one girl that was eyeing, and she was like, yes, I'm going to Croatia. But it never happened anyway.
It never happened.
It never happened. You know, these government schools, they will hype you up for nothing. But it never happened. But for me, that was a point of reflection. Like, it didn't really happen, but the fact that I was recognized as one of the best, that really hit me hard. So even when I went to Liwala, I didn't take it as a joke. I took it very, very seriously. And I was recognized for that as well. I actually got a prize for best piece in art, because there was a section where you had to be practical. You make something, mold something, or draw. And I remember I created Fat Albert using beads.
Oh, really?
I created, it was a bead mosaic. So I created that Fat Albert mosaic piece, and I was awarded one of the best students in art for that. And it was even on display when we were carrying out those. So the creative side has always been a part of me. I've always treasured it and taken it as a tool that will always ride with me.
So did you ever, like the time that you're growing up as a kid, did you ever think that you would be, I don't know, a designer or something? Or an artist?
No, I had no idea.
I just knew that you loved it.
I knew I had something to do with art. You know, when growing up, you don't really know exactly what you want to do. In your mind, when you see people on TV doing art, you don't really know whether it's paying or not paying. So in my mind, I was like, I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to be one of those guys that draw nice things and sell. And then when I grew up, I actually realized that most of the people that do that, quite all right, they love it, but it's not paying. You know, if you took a small fraction of artists, not to belittle any of them, but it's a struggle. It's a struggled hustle. You know, most of them are not well to do. So I knew I wanted something in the creative space, but I just didn't know what it was exactly. But fortunate enough for me, when I was just about to graduate, you know, you have those career guidance sessions. So I had this teacher, I'll never forget her, Mrs. Mwanza. She sat down with me and said, what do you want to do in life? I see Taumfa, you know, you're very rebellious, you make a lot of noise, but you're smart. Because I was also very good in commerce. So it's like, what are you really good at? It's like, I'm very good with commerce. I can talk to people. I'm convincing, but I love art. You know, I like the creative side of life. So she was like, okay, have you tried to consider marketing? Marketing, like I've just heard about, and at that time, marketing wasn't very popular. It wasn't a very popular profession. So like, what's this marketing thing? I did a little bit of some research and I told myself, okay, maybe this is home. Because it took me straight to advertising, you know, making things look nice, all these adverts, radio adverts and whatnot. So I was like, okay, marketing it is. Because I tried to explore the business side, business admin, boring. In the office, no, that's not me. You know, accountants, definitely not. Definitely not. I was never very good with numbers anyway.
So that's how you had that conversation now with the time you were going to uni?
Yes, so I had that conversation. And you know how parents are, because you're living under someone's house and you have these siblings that have followed a specific route. Say when you graduate from high school, look for tertiary education. And at that time it was UNZA. So the drive was, okay, since you finished school, let's take you to UNZA. I was like, what am I going to do at UNZA? There's no marketing there. No, you apply as long as you just go there. You get a degree. As long as you get in, you find your way. I was like, this is not gonna happen. This is not gonna happen. And I was like, okay, no, cool. I mean, yeah, my parents, you sponsor me. Let me make you proud. But my eyes were still on marketing, and I continued doing my research. So happened that I did actually make that application to UNZA. But it didn't really make sense. Or something about going into the school of BALIS, Bachelor of Library Information Studies, and then you go somewhere else. I was like, no, this is not for me. I even had an argument with mom. Like, this is not for me. You want me to go this way, but I'm not going to thrive there because I don't love it. And I think the Almighty Father in heaven heard my prayers. My application didn't go through. My application didn't go through. Unfortunately, my application didn't go through because my marks were not as good. I wasn't those 6-point guys, no, but I wasn't a failure as well. I think I got about 9 points. That wasn't good enough for UNZA.
That wasn't good enough. I thought it was easier to go to UNZA than CBU.
Well, here's the story. So I know UNZA, there's always that UNZA CBU battle. But we know CBU is the best.
I went there also.
There we go. So you know what it is. So what happened was, as I was doing my research, I had a couple of recommendations from some mentors that I was talking to. And they told me, I know you want a degree, but there's also Evelyn Horn. You know, Evelyn Horn has this marketing diploma. As you try to navigate through life, try it out there. So I enrolled at Evelyn Horn. It was a good experience. I met a lot of people that I still know even now. People that still give me business. I like to develop relationship at every stage, everywhere I go. So I enrolled there and it was good. A lot of things happened, obviously. Things that we cannot mention. We'll keep that under wraps. But so that diploma, when I was finally able to finish it up, it gave me access to CBU via, what do you call them, exemptions. So they don't really consider your grade 12 results. They'll look at your diploma as a backup paper for an exempt. So that's how come I was like, okay, now I'm ready. And that's it. I think that's the time where CBU just introduced marketing. Because that was also very new. Because CBU is naturally a technical school. So it was very new there. I was like, okay, now, since I have my diploma now, let me get into CBU. And that's how I applied and found myself there.
That's interesting.
I got into the second year. I was lucky enough to go straight into the second year because I hear the first year is rough. It's rough. It cleans up people. If you're 1,000, you remain 80. So I was fortunate enough. So, but even then, my entrepreneurial journey actually started at CBU. Strangely.
I think that there's a lot of that at CBU. Like people are selling
people
almost
are hustlers.
People are hustlers there.
People are hustlers. In my blog, you find this one is selling rice, this one does computer, whatever. So it was like a hustle jungle in there. And I was lucky enough to find my foot. And I had no idea I was even going to get into design.
So that's where it started from.
The love for it started from there. I was able to know what my contribution to society was going to be. But I didn't have the skill.
Yeah.
I wasn't even a graphic designer. I was just able to talk to people and find business. So what I did was, I realized at CB there were all these functions and they needed banners to be designed and whatnot. I couldn't design. So I found someone who could design. So I would go there pitching, hey, you guys are having a function. You're end of year Shan, school business party. And I would be the guy to work on the designs. But people didn't know that. People would come to me as the interface, say, that guy does banners. But there was a guy
There's a guy
who was doing, he was the one who was actually doing the stuff. Yeah. So that created some stream of income for me. And it got so used to making money and failing to wait for your parents to send you pocket money and whatnot. So I knew for a fact that I wanted to do something for myself. Believe it or not. Because when you're done with the second year, you're specialized, right? Because there was that school of business that had accounting, marketing, and business administration. I went straight to marketing. Everybody had options. No, I want to go to a BIAC. I want to go to whatever. Marketing. I am going to marketing. And deliberately, towards the end, there are those projects that we do. I used that as an opportunity to carry out the feasibility study for what I'm doing now. So basically, my thesis was around, I can't really remember the title, but it was around the contribution of agencies in marketing in Zambia. So I was trying to it actually gave me a lot of information. Much as I got a C, I was supposed to get a B. It gave me a lot of information. It taught me the whole landscape of marketing, what's involved in marketing. For a final product to reach your eyes, who are the players? And I think that's where I was able to identify myself. Said, okay, I don't want to be a marketing manager. No. I don't want to be in the office giving instructions. I want to be out there. But how am I going to be out there? Then I noticed there were different types of agencies. I was like, oh, okay, so businesses don't actually have to have an in-house marketing department to do these things. They usually outsource. And that's where I actually realized that, okay, it's actually a growing business that can thrive going forward, because my impression in my mind was companies do these things on their own. They do their own productions on their own. I didn't know anything about agency work, graphic designing and whatnot. So I was like, okay, no, cool. I did my thesis. I carried that as information for my business. And when I graduated, I actually came out second best. Second best student. So I used that as a yardstick to see how feasible what I wanted to do was going to actually happen. And it so happened that when I got my first job, it was good. But then, as a marketing student, whenever you're in an interview and they're trying to ask you questions and whatnot, they usually drive you to sales. Understand? This guy is a good seller. He can sell us. He can sell our products. So most of the jobs that I would get, they would take me straight to sales. And that was one of the banks. I don't know if I should mention it, but I won't. One of the banks. And then I transitioned. I got poached when Vodafone came into the picture. So now when Vodafone came, I was like, okay, this is going to be a good start for me. I'll learn from them how they do their branding and whatnot. And unfortunately, I got thrown in the sales department again. So I was trying to find my foot into the design space. But you know what happened with Vodafone? It literally crumbled. And when that happened, it messed me up. It really, really messed me up. It literally shaped my whole life. Because I think at the time, even the relationship that I had crumbled because of that. My relationship at home was also affected, because when I was leaving the bank, everybody was against it to say, why do you want to leave the bank? This is a very good bank. Job security. I was like, I want to go this side. They have doubled my salary this side. I'm going this side. So I had that pushback even with the powers that be. So when that happened, you know how it is. Hey, we told you.
And now you start feeling guilty.
And you start feeling guilty. And I was like, you know what? This is a life lesson for me. I'm never going to let a job have so much control over my life. Never. It messed me up. So I was like, okay, cool. what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to go straight into the job market again. I'm starting my business. At that time, we're still operating. You won't believe it. Royalty actually started as deeds. In my mind, I'm going to own a business. You know, when growing up, you have all these fancy names. In reality, it doesn't work. Like, I'm going to start a company called Deeds INC. Didn't even know what INC meant at the time. So it was running in the background. We're doing some work. I wasn't even doing any graphic design. It was mostly a marketing-oriented company. So do marketing plans for clients and whatnot. And they want, when we're doing the work, you actually realize that, this person doesn't have a logo. Then I would call my guy. He was still with me from CBU. Logo. So now as traction started growing, the guy got a job and he started failing to deliver. It's like, okay. Photoshop. Let us bring Photoshop to the world. So I brought in Photoshop. I started learning a couple of things and I started designing. And I wasn't excellent. When I look at the work now, I'm like, what were you doing? That was really bad stuff. But it was something that was working at the time. And I even did some work with Vodafone at the time. I think everywhere I go, they will know that this guy does design because I would be very strong on the selling part.
I've noticed that you're into fitness a lot. How did that start?
There's a backstory to it. You know, when growing up, when you look a certain way, you get bullied a lot.
When you look small?
When you look small, you get to be bullied a lot. And unfortunately for me, I was very, very small. I was slim, you know, the back is flat, the front is also flat. My hands are like that. And for some reason, some guy at Munali decided to make a joke out of it. He started calling me Jeff Slice. You know, Jeff Slice. I'm like, why are you calling me Jeff Slice? Slice your bread. Do my own, slice your bread. Like you're flat this side, flat this side. I was like, Anyway, so that's how I'm called Slice at some point. I realized I'm not the type of person, because of my body type, no matter how much food I eat, I can never gain weight. I can. You can give me a whole bottle of cooking oil, give me lard and fat. It's not going to happen. The only way I discovered I can alter my body and how I can look is through fitness. And it was very specific when I was growing up. It was, you know, pushing weights and whatnot. But as naive as I was, I went straight into the gym and all I was doing was, you know, just working on the bench. So I ended up having a very big chest and small arms. I didn't even know what leg day was. So it was around that. I wanted to look a certain way. And over time, I got to achieve it. I was able to achieve that. But the thing that made me very serious about my fitness journey was, I think 3-4 years ago, I had an incident. I had a lot of pressure from work. I had a lot of pressure from royalty. At the time that I was juggling the two. I was broke. There were bills pending. And, you know, it was a build-up up to a point where, you know, I'm in the house and then just blackout. Boom. I was on the floor. My wife is the one who came to pour water on me. Hey, what's wrong? I just collapsed. I don't know what has happened. And you know how women are, very, very caring. You are going to the hospital now. I can't even drive. No. Okay, you'll go tomorrow morning. I went to the doctor and the first thing that they realized was I was hypertensive. Hypertensive, like, how can you be hypertensive? Look at your body, you're small and whatnot. And you just told me straight up, like, you don't have a very good lifestyle. You think you're fit because you push weights, you got to my arms and all, but no, you have to bring in an aspect of cardio because that's what's going to help your blood, you know, your metabolism and whatnot. And at that point, I realized if I do not continue being very deliberate about my health, it's going to take my life. I will end my life on my own. So I joined a fitness group called Eat, Clean, Train, Dirty. It's a WhatsApp group that we have, and we share our fitness journeys, those that push weights. So we post everything in there. And I got encouraged to start running. Now, you know, when you're running, it's just running. But this guy introduced me to an app that tracks you're running.
Yeah.
And you know what that does? It motivates you because when you run, I was able to cover 3 kilometers.
Yeah, next time.
I'm going to do it again. And you start looking at your pace, and that's how come I found myself. And I mean, the health talk should be very strong.
Yeah.
I've lost a couple of people because of failure to take care of their bodies and whatnot. So that's why I'm very, very strong even on the message. Like, people should be able to live healthy lives.
Yeah.
Eat clean, exercise regularly. You can have your bad habits, you can chow your T-bones and whatnot, drink your beer, but balance it up. At least that way you'll be able to buy yourself some time in life.
No, that's really inspiring.
Yeah.
I think most of the times we realize that when we're in a bad situation,
that's too late.
Yeah.
And I always joke about this, because I get a lot of backlashes online. You are just talking about fitness. That's why we're looking for money. The same money that you're working so hard for, when you're in that situation, the bill that will come out, your whole life savings will go towards your health. You don't want to have that.
Yeah.
You've seen the bills, whatever complications come, the bills that come. You need $10,000 every month for whatever treatment. You could have just had a very healthy lifestyle to prevent all that. So the message has to be very, very loud and clear. Very loud and clear.
Yes, that's really important. Even just your thinking, that clears up your mind.
The thinking.
The stress, everything.
That's another benefit, because the amount of stress that's released when you're exercising, be it in the gym or on the road running, is extremely underrated. It literally clears up your mind.
Yeah.
I try to do my own observations. Okay, let me not exercise for like 3 weeks. Let's just see what's going to happen. Creative blocks.
Yeah.
I couldn't think properly. My planning was just all over the place. And I decided, okay, let me switch it up. Let me see. Everything changed. And even when you do research, you actually realize that when you exercise, you think a little bit better.
Yeah.
Which is why some creative agencies out there, some of them that I look up to, have infused an aspect of fitness.
Yeah, fitness. Yeah. Nice.
So it's very important. We actually have to take it seriously.
Yeah, so of course you work with clients, and mostly I'm sure SMEs. Yeah, so how do you approach SMEs? Like, what do you advise SMEs who have like a low budget? Because that's one that's one aspect as well. They have a low budget, but they really want you to do their work.
That's an interesting one. Broyalty's target market is actually SMEs. We don't even target the corporates specifically for one reason. I do not like headaches, but they are welcome to work with us. So because of that thing that I put in my mind, I always know that even when clients come to us, they have a specific range that they want to deal with. Of course, most of them come below par, but as a person, as a marketer, as a seller, I've been trained to be able to convince certain clients that you actually don't just need this at this price, whatever. You need to be able to upsell whatever you're selling. So even if they come with a specific budget, and I'm fortunate enough that even the people that come know our pricing, but for those that don't know our pricing, you find a way of accommodating them. I always believe any person can afford anything if you give them a payment plan. Okay. Yeah, anybody can afford anything if you give them a payment plan. I think most of the vehicles that we see on our roads, the houses that we see, most of them are not outright purchases. It's either they got a loan that gives them that flexibility to pay over time and whatnot. It's the same principle even in design. I think even when you're dealing with corporates, it's not every corporate that's going to give you an upfront payment. So even you play with the mind, you say, okay, how much did you have for this? No, we just wanted the logo. We have this amount. Okay. The policy is this. First of all, you tell them the policy. I know it seems much, but did you know that we do not expect that amount upfront? So what you can do is pay us a deposit of maybe 50%. When we're done with all the work, and you have to convince them that they're going to be happy at the end of the day. When we're done with all the work, you're happy, you see it's working, then you can give us the balance. That way you feel like you've lifted a whole heavy thing off their shoulders. So it's about talking to your clients very well. Because you see, the thing is, brand identities, branding, the whole concept is just growing in Zambia. And very, very few appreciate the real value of having a proper design. Okay? So this is where you come in as a marketer or someone who's smart enough to convince them. You give them value, because you know how most of our biggest projects start? A client will come for a logo. So most of our clients, we don't even have the luxury of going through a discovery session. They just want a logo. Pangilago logo, I want to open a business account. I need to put it on my headed paper. So they just want that. So now it's up to you to be able to sell them something else. Okay, you want a logo. Suppose I make you this logo. What are you going to do with it? No, I want to put it on a letterhead. Do you know that we also have a package that has a logo, a letterhead, and eventually you have a business card. We have a package like that. But I also understand that you're trying to open a business account, right? There's a process to that. You also need a company profile. Do you have someone to make a company profile for you? Actually, yes. I need a company profile. How much is that? Then you give them your rate card. Say, it's entirely up to you. If you just want a logo, this is how much it's going to be. But if you get a package, it's going to be ultimately cheaper, because you do the mathematics with them. Because if you're a real business person, every penny counts. So it's up to you as a designer, whatever service you're trying to provide, to convince the client that they're actually making a saving. You tell them, if I make this logo for you and you go somewhere else, that guy is going to charge you separately for a letterhead design. There will be another guy that side who will charge you separately. And when you put your coins together, you actually realize you're making a loss, and you're spending more. So why don't you get this package? This is the payment plan. Some of the payment plans that we have even allow you to make 3 payments, 30%, and the rest when we finish. And that's how we manage to get most of our clients. So you build on that.
So what would you say is some of the mistakes businesses make when it comes to their brand identity? I think you've mentioned some, like people just wanting the logo. That's also another mistake.
That's one mistake. There's so many mistakes that I would point out. For example, the clients that claim they just want a logo, they don't even know that they're trying to create a brand. Because there's one client that we worked on. I just realized a few years ago that they were actually big. And when we made that logo, this client is Heartland. They're actually very big. It's a big farm out there. And they still use the same logo that we created 7-8 years ago. And I look at this logo like, no, this logo should not work. So most of the clients, most of the market, when you look at the Zambian market, it's short-sighted. They don't usually look 2-3 years, 5 years ahead. They just want it there and then. They don't really see the actual value. And even when you do manage to explain the value to them and they ultimately buy into it, you do the nice logos, you eventually do the brand identities, they don't follow them. And it's very annoying. You put in the work, maybe even get some good money out of it. But when you see the product out there being applied, it's totally different from what you advise. Sometimes I literally have to call these people. Why are you putting the logo on a green background? Is that part of your guidelines? So you have both. So that's when it comes to branding, that's one of the biggest mistakes. Brands, they fail to be consistent. When you look at big brands, you see how very consistent they are. Where they place the logo, if it's going to be at the top corner, it will be there. If it's going to be at the bottom, it will be there. If it's going to be a certain size, it will be there. For years. If they only have 3 colors, you would find their typeface. If it's going to be in those colors, it will be in those colors. You won't find anything external. If it's a specific font, you've seen how Nando's does it. They can have a plain billboard that just says chicken. But because of the font, you will know that that's Nando's. That's the consistency. And that's what brand businesses fail to accept. That for you to build a brand, it's not going to be something that will look nice. No. It can look nice, but it's not a brand. And I always give this example, 2 sides. Relationship size, when you're trying to go for a girl or an interview. When you want to go for a job, okay, you have to look a certain way to make a first impression, right? That's the visual identity of the business. You as a person, you present yourself, you're in a nice suit, you've got your tie on, you're smelling good, you have a fresh shave. That's your visual identity. Unfortunately, most businesses focus on that alone. They don't know that even when you show up for that business interview or work interview, you make that first impression. But if you have garbage in your head, it won't go anywhere. You can speak good English. You even find yourself in the job. But how long are you going to stay in that job if you're incompetent? You see? So it's the same application in even design. People, clients, businesses, wants to have a fresh look. But they forget that there's actually a bigger part of the iceberg at the bottom. That's strategy, you know? Even if you're looking nice, what are you going to say? What are you going to tell this girl?
Yeah.
You know, you're smelling good, you're looking good, but what are you going to tell her? How are you going to keep her informed? How are you going to entertain her? How are you going to make her feel? Do you think if you go there with your looks, you're going to last in the relationship? No, she'll figure out that, okay, this guy is actually pretty dumb. He's got no future. Yes, he's handsome, he's well presented, but he's got no data. It's the same thing with brands. They look good, but there's no strategy. They don't know how to communicate with people. Most of them have convinced themselves that they are marketers. They know what they're doing, but it ends up backfiring because, you know, reality hits and there are fundamentals that you have to follow. So I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. They have to appreciate the true value of building a brand, and they have to be very, very patient with it. Building brands takes time.
Yeah, it does. Really does.
Takes time.
So now we're talking about creativity. Of course, when it comes to especially design, you have you're in a place where you want to make things to look good. You need to make sure that things look good, but you also need to you're not supposed to forget about strategy. Exactly. So how do you balance that? You know, looking good, plus you also have the strategy.
That's a very interesting one. In psychology, I don't know if I know we did it in marketing, consumer behavior. There's a personality theory by Fred Sigmund. Fred Sigmund. So there's this personality theory that describes three elements. So there's the id, there's the super ego, and there's the ego. So now the interesting thing about this concept is there's one that's on the extreme side. So that's the id. It's the one that just wants to explore, you know. It wants immediate gratification. It just wants you to feel good, you know. Then there's the other side, which is the super ego. Very calm. It's the one that corrects the id, you know. As we're on this side, you are going to be on this side. So it literally is very, very calm, you know, uncontrolled and whatnot. Then we have the ego, which is in between. So what that ego does is it controls the impulsive nature of the id, and it brings the calm side of the super ego and brings it together to make it work, which is something that we would like to talk about when it comes to strategy versus creativity. You know, creativity by nature is very explosive. It's got no rules. Can do anything. Look at what's happening with Kanye. He's one of the most creative guys out there. He can do literally anything. And that's one thing about creativity. We have artists, musicians, painters, and whatnot. They can do whatever they want in their space because that's their space. But the moment you choose to use aspects of creativity like art, design, and whatnot, you have to bend to certain rules, okay? Especially when you're dealing with communication, businesses. You can't say, no, just because we're creative, we're going to get a lot of noise, people hear about us and whatnot, then that's it. No, if you can be creative and break all the rules and mess up everything. So that's where strategy comes. You use, because like I mentioned, initially I was never a graphic designer. I didn't even know anything about it. I was using design as a tool for marketing. Okay, so I was able to measure, put those two together and come up with a product, which is what we're doing.
All right. Thank you so much for that. That's really useful. At least I think we need, for anything that you have, there needs to be some level of control, which is, like you said, creativity is like explosive. It's all over the place.
Very explosive.
But it needs to be controlled in one way or another so that, you don't ruin everything. So this is called Do It. We don't just talk here. We get into the practical. We get our hands dirty. So for this project breakdown, we're going to look at one of the brand identity. You guys had a challenge which went viral. So we're going to look at that and the story behind that. And what was your thought process behind creating that brand? All right, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. All right, let's get into it. So the Zampost challenge. That really went viral. There was a lot of noise. Just like, ish. Yeah, so tell me about that. How did that all start before we get into the process of designing it?
The Zampost rebrand challenge. That was one of my highlights last year. It was It was a very deliberate move, actually. So sometimes I get into bully mode and I just bully people around. Yeah. I'll tell you this. I envy Blink very, very much. I envy those guys very, very much, such that I've channeled a little bit of some of my energies just looking at how they do certain things, because one day I would like Broyalty to be like them. I envy them in the sense that they have this muscle, they have the financial muscle, and the creative team is just out of this world. So when I was rebranding, because at the point Broyalty decided to do a rebrand, we had some very common logo. It had 3 people in a little circle and whatnot. So we thought, in the presence of all this, and since we wanted to grow, we decided to rebrand. And when we finally did a rebrand, we discovered that there was another agency very, very strong that somewhat looked a little bit like us. Because when you look at our logo and their logo, they're a little bit similar. You know, the square and whatnot, the bold text on the side and whatnot. So I was like, oh, these guys look interesting. And when I followed them a little bit more, I realized that their work was actually very good. So in my mind, I was like, okay, if Broyalty wants to make a statement, they're going to go for the biggest guys on the market. And I know there are a lot of creative agencies out there that are really big, possibly even bigger than them because they come from other countries. But they seemed to make a lot of noise at that particular time. And I thought, these are going to be the best targets to give me leverage to make a mark for myself. I posted something jokingly to say, we're looking for a brand challenge, you know? And there was no feedback, nobody said anything, and then I pointed out Blink, hey, we want to challenge you to a brand refresh. And you know, for some moment, I actually did that twice. The first time it didn't even get any traction, but the second time, they were like, okay, cool, let's do it. Because when you post something like that online, you know, your followers will start, hey, Blink, have you seen this guy? He's challenging you guys. So I was like, no, cool, let's do it. And they accepted the challenge. We drew the terms here and there. I threw it to them, say, okay, pick a brand, pick a new brand. Let's see who we're going to pick. The initial suggestion was they wanted to go for a fitness company. I was okay with anything, you know, because I knew what we were capable of. So we accepted the challenge. Okay, no, cool, let's do it. Fitness, whatever company, we're going to do it. But when most stakeholders started showing interest, they were like, no, guys, let's make this a little bit more interesting, okay? Let's pick something that's actually really needing a rebrand. And we did some research here and there, and they brought in Zampost. It's like, okay, this is very interesting. It's going to be boring, of course, because we know how parastators are. They will not even look at you, say you've done the rebrand, no matter how good you've done the work. So I was like, okay, no, it's a good challenge. I mean, the challenge is already open, so we can't start arguing about what project to work on, because at the end of the day, if we start disputing, we're going to look weak. So we're like, okay, cool. At the back of my mind, I knew exactly what we were going to do. And I knew what Blink was going to do. I knew for a fact they were going to come heavy with every power in their arsenal. They were going to do all those photo manipulations, animations, whatever graphic resource they were going to do. I knew they were going to come heavy. We're not very strong on that. We're not bad. We're good for the market. But when it comes to that level, they are very, very good. And I knew they were going to bring their A game. So what we decided to do was, we're going to treat this like a real project. Zampost has come to Broyalty. Possibly they've gone to Blink as well. And let's see how they're going to serve them. And let's see how we're going to serve them. I literally took this like a personal project to make it work. And it's that same thought process, the whole strategy we're talking about, that helped us come up with what we came up with. When you look at the parastator, and I see a lot of designers trying to do some rebrand as passion projects and whatnot, most of them usually miss the mark. You know why? Because they feel it's good enough to give them something that looks good, totally different most of the times. And that's not the case with parastators. The way I understand parastators, government agencies, and maybe any company that's run by an old school person, they do not want so many changes to their brand.
Yeah.
They do not. The moment you just choose to move either way from the colors, the typography, the main elements of their brand, you lose them. So our strategy was, and I called up, he's an associate of Royalty. His name is Henry Ngambi. Brilliant guy. Very underrated. He's based on the Copper Belt. And this is one resource that was introduced to me by Mapalo. Mapalo Musonda, I had once hosted him here. Brilliant guy as well. So there was a point where, you know, the traffic was building up at Royalty and I couldn't really manage to do everything. And, you know, creating a logo is a lot of work.
Yeah.
My mind should be focused on bringing in clients instead of spending hours trying to do geometry and whatnot. So I looked for a resource that's specifically meant for logo designing. And I think if you had to think of 10 guys that I would recommend for a logo design, Henry is there. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
So when this project came, I knew, because he's always part of us, I knew where to go. Yeah. So I told him we have this project and we're going to treat it like a real client. Okay. I told him the brief and I told him exactly how I wanted things to be done. Of course, you know how designers are, they're talented and whatnot, but they also need guidance. So I gave him creative freedom. Okay, you know what the task is. Let's see the logos that you're going to present. He sent me about 4. I didn't like any of them. Like, no, it's not speaking Zampost. He tried to use the same color. It's not speaking Zampost. I think there was one particular one that seems to make a little bit of some sense. It was like a cross between 2 letters, Z and P. I don't know, he tried to make some design. It looked good, but I knew it wasn't going to work. So I went back and just did a little bit of some research and I looked at some of the postal companies worldwide. Most of them use the same concept. It's the envelope. Whether they've digitized their services or not, it's the envelope. So I told Henry, okay, because I trust him so much. When you guide him properly, he'll give you something that you really need. So I told him, give me an envelope. And he's from the Copper Belt. Envelope name like just give me an envelope in the simplest form. I don't know if you're gonna cut it, but just give me an envelope in the simplest form. And he gave me this design. So of course, I have a very good eye for certain things that can work. I think he gave me that envelope in one color. It must have been red. So I changed a couple of things. And I sent it back to him. But there was still something missing on the word mark. The way he would usually do it is he would send me some nice design of a mark and having the text on the side. But I realized there's something that we could actually adopt. Have you seen the way Zamtel, the word mark is? Yeah. The A is connected to the M. So like, you know, this is something that can actually be a Zambian thing. You know, if it's Zam something, we can have that Zam with the A connected to the M and then put something. So we adopted that envelope and created that ZAM in that way where the A is attached to the M and then the post separately. And we decided to make it work. But like I said, it's okay to have a good logo. It's good to have nice colors, something that looks good, but there has to be a story to it. And we had 2 options. Are we going to go eccentric with this? You know, new school, talk about digitization, make it look cool? Or we're going to treat this like a real project as it was intended? Because from our research, we realized that over 80% of Zampost clients are not us. It's not a person like me. It's not a 20-year-old person. It's someone who actually had an experience with Zampost. How do you describe such a client, such an audience? These people are not into fancy things. They do not want to see helicopters delivering their products. No, they would rather hear, possibly when you want to do a refresh, you tap into the heritage of a business, okay? How are we going to present this rebrand? So we came up with a structure. We're going to use heritage as a main message for Zampost because that's all they have. It's not like they're competing now. We can't say they're going to use new technologies. No. They've already lost that confidence. So how do you bring back the old market to what they want to achieve now? So you bring back old memories, you know, storytelling. And storytelling is a very, very crucial part in marketing. You don't understand that part of it because most of the creatives, want to make things look good without having a strong story to tell. Okay. But what we realize is in as much as we may not have the proper visuals, good posters, the photo the image manipulations and whatnot, if we have a solid story to tell, this is something that's actually going to help us win this challenge. And yeah, we came up with a concept to, have a storytelling background, bring in Zamto, the story of Zamto, where it came from. Simple stories like we were there when the first letter was being presented, We were there when we had independence, when KK received his first document via Shan. We are the ones who delivered. So that story is something that actually helped us win that competition, because when you saw the grading, it was visual identity, they give you a certain percentage. Story, they'll give you a certain. Fortunately, we were able to win most of them. Yeah, so to cut the long story short, it was more around, it was bigger on the strategy than the execution. If you notice, we were very fortunate enough that we picked Blink because they're very loud and they gave us that traction. When they post those teasers, because there were a lot of teasers, a lot of teasers and whatnot. And it was a very interesting experience. And when we first posted our work, finally, when we're done and was confident enough to put it out there, there was silence. They actually missed the deadline.
Yeah.
Because, when we were starting the project, they seemed very confident. When I reached out to Agwe, it seemed like they had already prepared everything and they were just waiting for me to post. Don't worry, we got this. Before you even put this challenge, we're ready already. No, we know. Possibly you could even have some templates. Maybe that's why you chose Zampost, but that didn't shake me. So when we posted our work finally, we noticed there was a delay. Guys, what's happening? So I also started throwing shots, I think I sent a meme where, that Eminem 8 Mile image where he went blank. So I posted that image, like, this is Boyety posting, and Blink is like that. So there was all that backlash. So there was a lot of excitement around it. And finally, they posted their work. And yeah, there were a lot of mixed feelings attached to both projects. The people that really understood what we were trying to do, appreciated what we were able to do. And of course, that other side had its own demographic that they tapped into, because it's like the Gen Zs, the new generation and whatnot, they were very happy with what they were seeing. This is creative, it's thinking outside the box. But one concept that you have to bear in mind is you can be creative, but if you break the rules, you miss the mark. Simple things like a model called the PEST model in marketing. Before you do anything, no matter how creative it is, whatever intention you have in communication, especially when you're delivering a service, you have to put in mind certain things. How's the political, that's the PEST model. How's the political structure in the market? How's the economic structure? What's the social and cultural setup of that environment? And I think they missed it there, because I think there was one artwork where they threw in a mermaid, but superstition in Zambia is very strong. You throw in that, and I think that's one part that made them lose their mark. I think John Zimba, actually put them on spot because of that. He literally copied that artwork and posted it on his LinkedIn for analysis. So ultimately, to cut the long story short, we won the challenge, both based on the visual concept of what we created and the strategy that was around that. So for me, that was, I think, one of the biggest wins of last year. We were able to flex our muscle on that. I would comfortably say we're the undefeated brand identity designers in the country. Yeah, even if we put all the records there, because it's the first challenge that we've had so far. Yeah. And hopefully we can have more, probably with a better structure, more intention to actually turn a challenge into a project that's going to be realized in real life. Yeah, not just having challenges for the fun of it, because ultimately that's going to dilute the whole purpose.
Yeah. So what do you think is the biggest lesson from this?
The biggest lesson is you, as a creative, you need to be smart. I think in every industry, whether you're a doctor, But I like to talk more about the creative industry because that's where we reside. You can be the most creative person out there with all this talent, but if you do not know how to use your skill set, you stick to the same type of clients, you stick to the same amount of revenue that you're getting, and you will not grow. You have to be very mindful about the industry standards. I think that's one other thing that I got to learn, even when I was starting. Because when I was starting, it was all about creativity, making something look good. But then when I realized that there's a difference between just being creative and applying something the corporate side that has standards that you have to follow. You can't design a booklet without considering things like margins, the borders and whatnot. Before then, Vale Pangafi will just make things and whatnot. So that's one thing that most creatives fail to understand. That was my biggest takeaway. You can be creative, you can have the best resource in the world, but if you don't have a way of doing things, you're going to lose everything. And nobody actually cares about how things look these days. It's about how it's going to work. Even when you're in boardrooms, you make a presentation. Okay, good. This is how you guys are going to look. You used to look this way. And you make a very nice PowerPoint presentation on how they're going to look even in real life. The question they're going to ask is, okay, quite all right, it looks good, but is this really going to translate into more business for us? And then you'll be there like, no, you see, beauty is subjective. You can't really put a value on it. No, it has to be measurable. When you conduct something, it should be able to give you results. Same thing with looking good. If you look good and you fail to get that growth, then there's literally nothing you've done. So you have to marry, if you want to grow, especially in the creative space, nurture that talent that you have, but mix it with amano. You need to have some sense, some level of education. If you can have it, there are so many free resources that can teach you to be a better designer.
Do you think we need more public creative challenges? Because again, we're at a place in the country where like the creative field isn't considered to be as much. But I think when we have such competitions, I think it also creates a lot of noise, and it also brings awareness to people that are not aware of the creative field and its importance. So what do you think about that?
It would be good to have more that are probably well organized, more structured, and we can have maybe more stakeholders playing a part in terms of judging. That would be good. The problem is if we have more challenges that are unstructured, it's going to be like wildfire. It's not going to make any sense. We have a lot of great work out there that will just be looked at, appreciated, and packed. So if we could have more, we could even have a calendar. Say every quarter, let's have a challenge. Agency versus agency. I like to say agency versus agency because that's the other reason our creative industry is not considered as much. Most of the stuff that we do is not documented. We create, you get paid, and it vanishes. That's why I think last year, was it the other year, we had that creative summit. It gave us a lot of, unfortunately, disturbing statistics. Do you know how much the creative energy contributes to GDP? 4%. 4%. So now think about all these agencies that make all this money and whatnot. Probably those are the ones that are contributing to that. But we have a lot of freelancers that do a lot of work. They get paid, goes into their Airtel money, they go and buy Hungry Lion, it finishes. So one way we can have all these, we can have 10 challenges and whatnot, but we need to show that it's actually valuable. Are these challenges going to translate into real projects that these targeted parastatals or companies are going to adopt at the end of the day? Because at the end of the day, it's value that you're trying to push, right? So if we can have more, but I would push for more structured ones. We target real companies that really need the work to be done. I think that's something that can open up doors.
I think we need more of what I think structured ones. I think is a key word. More structured. Well organized and not just doing things anyhow.
We can have them well structured. We can even have few. It's better to have few. We can have 3 every year or even 2. to make it more impactful, and people should be looking forward to some of these things.
Yeah.
I just don't like the issue of companies putting out competitions.
Yeah, I hate those as well. Like company, create our logo.
Create our logo.
And we'll choose.
No,
God.
don't. It's like, you know what I've realized about most of these companies? They are slowly coming down to the value of brands. But they don't want to approach designers and agencies.
Yeah.
First of all, they're not going to go to an agency because they can't afford that agency.
Yeah.
And they're not going to go to a graphic designer because we're a big company. We can't. So
the ego. So.
Yeah, the ego. They don't want to bruise their ego. So one way of tapping into that talent is competitions. And the background story to that is we're giving them exposure. Whoever is going to win will showcase their work, will acknowledge them. But look at the prize money that's there. We'll give you a logo that's going to function, and you want to give out prize money 30,000 kwacha.
Yeah.
Really? Do you know how much a brand identity costs? Comprehensive?
Yeah.
You pay a lot of money for that. So it's literally getting free resources
and publicity as well.
Yeah.
Because they're also getting publicity. Because more people are going to share.
Exactly. So that,
which is not so good.
That really
I don't participate in those.
You don't,
never,
eh?
Nah.
I don't.
It's a waste of time.
It's a waste of time. Although strangely, because of the strategy, we took part in one.
Yeah.
The pensions, insurance, whatever. Yeah. It came out, I was like, should I do it or not? Should I do it or not?
Yeah.
So I sat down with my guys because I have a permanent design as well. Helps with the truckload. I was like, okay, handle most of this stuff. Let's see what we can do with this. Besides, the goal is to tap into the market. What's the loss? So yeah, we did a couple of things. We don't know how it's going to pan out.
It's recent.
Yeah, it was this year. It was posted on their Facebook page and website, and it was shared around. And most senior designers obviously said a lot of stuff. I can't take part in this, but for me, I took it as an opportunity as well.
Yeah.
For me to take up something, it means I've really thought about it.
Yeah.
I've thought about it, possibly even prayed about it. So we took part.
Yeah.
We don't usually do it, but we took part in that one. Let's see how it goes. The Pensions Insurance Authority. Yeah, so look out for that one.
Yeah, nice. What do you think the creative industry is lacking in Zambia?
Collaboration. Togetherness, discipline, seriousness. You know, I just
would say that also contributes to people not taking it so serious.
Yes, yes, because look, if we are in an industry, firstly, we don't like each other. Do you know how divided our creative industry is? We've got camps. Got that camp, that side, we've got this camp, this side. And even within that same camp, I don't know if it's because of the nature of creatives. Most creatives are introverts. So they won't be loud, they won't show up when you need to show up. And most of us creatives believe so much in our talent. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
By nature, creatives know their self-worth. They have a very strong sense of entitlement. And to some extent, we believe we are God's gift to earth. So we have that strong sense of entitlement. But for the industry to grow, there's a lot of togetherness that has to be exhibited. I was joking with our little group. There's a creative group that we have called the Creative Trove. And I decided to do a test to say, okay, let's see how connected we are. We say we are a group of creatives with a goal and togetherness. So let's see. Then I posted, say, guys, on such and such a date, let's link up to share a few notes. I will buy lunch. No response. Time was coming, we were heading towards the same date. Only one guy called me, Geoffrey, is this still happening? I was like, yeah, it's happening, but I mean, it's not going to create any impact because the goal was to have us in one place, then we share ideas. Nobody showed up. And surprisingly, even in the same flock of the creative industry, there's a bunch of creatives that always shows up. And those I always appreciate. If I can name a few, there's Joshua Vunda, there's Mapalo, there's Dickens, you know, to name a few. when there's a gathering for creative people in the creative industry to join and meet in person, these guys always show up. And I always give kudos to them because, I mean, if we can't meet to discuss important things, then when are we ever going to meet? To have fun?
Yeah.
To swim? To have drinks? No.
Starts from there.
Yeah, it starts from there. And I was very happy when we had the Do It experience. We showed up. I was like, okay, this guy is doing a very good job. The marketing was on point, the hype was created, and people showed up. So now if people are able to show up, that's one step. If they can show up and listen, that's another step. If they can show up, listen, and apply, then we win everything. Because at the end of the day, all our revenue that we make is never captured. Like I mentioned, you get a deal, you get your pay, straight Hungry Lion, you sponsor your girlfriend, and it ends there. But meanwhile, there's an opportunity because most creatives think you need to have a big business, big structure, office for you to start a business. You know, you can actually start a business as a sole trader and a business aim, and you trade as a business. That's basically royalty.
Yeah.
So start small, have your papers on point, then you even, because most creatives complain, how come we're not able to get big deals? Corporates don't come to us. Is a corporate going to come to you don't have any physical presence?
Yeah.
Is a corporate going to make a payment into your mobile money? Is a corporate even going to consider you without sending them a proper quotation? No. Yeah. So you're crying for all this attention, but are you prepared? So we have a lot to learn. We need to, it's like you're praying for blessings. And God says you need to position yourself. For you to get a certain blessing, you need to put yourself in a good position. Yeah. When that opportunity comes, you know how to treat it. Suppose you're crying there, I need business from one of these banks. They should come to us. You know, I'm Jason Kabanana. So the business comes to you and they ask you, okay, can we see your company profile or portfolio? You don't have it.
You don't have it.
Oh, okay, we've seen some of your work is good. Can you give us a quotation? You can't provide. Oh, okay, since your work is so good, we'll bend the rules. Do the work for us. Give us your banking details. Yeah. You don't have a bank account. What is that? How do you expect them to take you seriously? Yeah. It's a give and take. If you want certain things to come your way, you have to do certain things. Certain things are not just going to come to you because you're good at it. No. You have to be good at it and you have to be prepared and you have to do the right thing. That's why most of the successful people in the industry, both Zambian and globally, those are the successful ones are those that were smart enough not to only rely on their creative energy, but they were smart enough to start businesses around their creative energies. Musicians, you start a studio. You have artists under you. You're a designer. You start a small company. You have designers under you. And you grow just like that. But the problem is creatives want to get the glory. Yeah. They want to be appreciated. Mwaka, Chikali, that guy is bad news. But I mean, that praise is not going to put food on your table. You have to look at what's going to work for you, put food on your table, both in the short term and the long term. Suppose Mwaka Nishikali is involved, God forbid, in a fight, they break your arms. Where's that creativity going to take you? It means you're done. Literally done. We saw what happened with Techno. The Nigerian artist. Not that his career is done, but he's got a good voice and whatnot. Then this morning he wakes up and he doesn't have a voice. Ask yourself this question, how did he manage to survive? He's created a business. He's not only a musician, but he does sound engineering. He writes music for people. He's created a system, an ecosystem around his talent. So this is a message that I try to preach to creatives. Quite all right. You are talented, but what happens when that talent is taken away? Are you going to be able to survive a month without you going into depression? Have a way around your creative energies and create a standard, constant revenue stream from it. If you can't diversify, but just don't rely on that. And that's the seriousness that I talk about. If you treat your talent as a talent, it will bring revenue just as a talent. If you treat your talent as a business, it's going to bring you business money. You even see more zeros being added to the bank account.
No, those are some really good nuggets. Yeah. So pretty good insights. I think we need more of that. We need more of that knowledge. We need to up our standards ourselves before people can take us serious.
Exactly.
Before clients can take us serious, and if you offer them, okay, this is how much I charge for this, there won't be that back and forth, you know?
No, you're not even going to have it because they'll see, presentation is very, very important. And I learned this even in the initial stages. Before mock-ups came up, we would just post work as it is. You design a poster, you just post it as it is, If it's a company profile, you post all the pages, so that people are able to browse through. But now, because of mock-ups, we've learned that presentation is a very important aspect of the business. But even with those mock-ups, you can't just use any mock-ups. You have to be knowledgeable for you to be able to apply appropriate mock-ups. You can't have a mock-up of a logo that you created for a food business put on a safety helmet because it looks nice. No, it has to be appropriate. So that's one thing that we have to work on. We have a lot of work to do.
Geoffrey, thank you so much. And now just to wrap it up, it's time for the rapid fire questions. Short answers only.
Bring it on.
Yeah. Your favorite brand, whether in Zambia or international?
Favorite brand, apart from royalty, I would say, let me give you two. My favorite brand right now, the way it's presented itself internationally, is the National Geographic logo. That's my favorite. I love the way it's applied in real life. Locally, not that I'm trying to toot your horn, but Lupia does it for me. I've seen how they carry out the stuff. And strangely, when I was doing a little bit of some research on you, on LinkedIn, I saw it's one of the projects that you've worked on. I was like, okay, not that he's hosting me, I want to put a crown on his head, but have you noticed the work that you've done and the consistency and how they apply the colors, how they do their logos and the messaging? It's just crazy. And for me, the local one, Lupia does it for me. I would have said the others, but they're not local.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just those are enough, Geoffrey. I know you have a lot, but...
those two. So globally, Nat Geo does it for me.
Okay. So a marketing book or creative book that changed your perspective?
Ooh, I'll admit something. I'm not so much of a reader. I think in my life, I've read not more than 12 books. But the book that really shaped everything for me is a book called The Company of One by Paul Jarvis. That's the book that literally shaped the business model of royalty. Talks about a lot of nuggets. Say you don't always have to be big to be big. You can be small and still be big. You don't always have to have 10 branches in a country to be big. So for me, The Company of One by Paul Jarvis is a book that changed everything for me.
Okay. Coffee or protein shake after workout?
Definitely a shake. I mean, what's coffee going to do for my body? Besides, I'm what's that word? Allergic to coffee. I don't take coffee at all.
Okay.
But the milk, a shake, it's going to replenish everything that I've lost. It will help me tone my muscles, the flexing and whatnot. So definitely a shake with a lot of peanut butter in it.
Protein, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, healthy stuff. What's one campaign you wish you had worked on?
The Z Mobile launch.
The Z Mobile launch?
The Z Mobile launch. I really wish, I know we are not yet there, but I really wish we had the hands to play. Not that we're trying to downplay what the other agency did with them, but I know we could have taken a different route and I would have been very excited. I'm saying this because of the background that I had. I mentioned Vodafone. You notice how the rollout was for Vodafone. Before Vodafone actually launched, they had a teaser campaign. Okay, it was called Amalevos. Fortunately enough, I was very curious enough to, get close to the agency that was working on that, and I got to learn a couple of things. And I think certain things could have been done a little bit differently with Z Mobile.
One word to describe your branding style?
It's charming.
Geoffrey, thank you so much for coming. Anything that you're working on upcoming?
There's a lot of collaborative works that we have in the background. You will be seeing a couple of brand refreshes out there. Some expected, some will shock you, but yeah, we do have some. We did realize actually that Broity has been in the background for a very long time. And as much as we put our stuff out there, we've been in the background for a very long time. So this year going forward, we made a very deliberate step to be out there. So we're doing a lot of sponsorships, charity. And sponsorships is not only the aspect of giving money. Sometimes giving free design services is sponsorship. There's an event that's trying to raise some money. You say, okay, no, cool. Let's give you visibility. We won't charge you anything, but give us visibility. When we do this for you, we're going to be present as part sponsors. So we'll put in some money, a little bit of some money, but the major chunk of it is providing what we do, which is design support.
Yeah.
So we typically target activities like currently there's a fundraiser that will be running soon under Kayula. So this is a foundation that takes care of cancer children. So there will be a fundraiser aerobics that will be happening next month. That's another thing that we're working on. And we have a brotherhood conference that we'll be having soon as well. That's also sponsored by Broity. So we're going to be doing a lot of sponsorships and a lot of rebrand projects.
Nice.
We want to flex. We want to be known. Okay, Broity, yes, we are creative, but we have a niche service that we're trying to push. Whenever people are coming in, whenever clients are coming into the country, region, the world, if they ever think of coming up with a new brand, they should think of Broity. They can think of all these agencies for campaigns and whatnot, but when it comes to brand identities, they should think of Broity.
So where can people find you?
We are all over the socials. So you find us on Facebook, Broity Business Solutions. You find us on LinkedIn, Broity Business Solutions. We're on Instagram. You find us on Behance, and we also have a website. If people want to reach me, I am Geoffrey Lusenga on all socials as well.
Geoffrey, thank you so much for coming through. I was really looking forward to this conversation and glad we've had it.
Trust me, I'm the one who was looking forward to having it because I remember I had reached out, said, hey, I want to be part of it. So I'm actually very humbled to be here. This might definitely be one of my highlights as well for the year. So thank you very much for making it happen.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming through. All right, let's do it.
Thank you. Let's do it. I love that.